Well, round about now, I figures the time we take a look at some classic Americana. You know what I'm talking about?
Dag nabbit, I'm kind of starting to think I do. I think.
What?
But
Just get it done.
Hey, y'all just shared a spittoon there, all right? Fuck.
Sorry to jangle your spurs there, Cyrus.
It's quite all right. You know, I'm easy going as can be. But we're going to talk about some of the westerns. And first one is Australian, an accent I cannot do.
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah.
We're gonna do the Quigley Down Under then.
Yeah, we are.
That may be the best. It's funny, actually, our dog, we have an Australian cattle dog, and so we try to do an Australian voice for her that always comes out British. I think
Well, it's because we also try to do it in falsetto. So we're trying to do an Australian accent, and it doesn't work.
She's a Sheila.
She's a Sheila. I love that we're doing this on air. This totally needs to be shared with people.
I can't even try to do it publicly because it will go back and forth from New Zealand to Australian until someone is forced to come to my house and kill me. So,
and his name is Peter Jackson.
I couldn't even blame him. I was like, you're right. I had that coming. I should never have tried that.
You just remember Mad Max like 3 days ago. I saw a rig that could hold that tanker. You want to get out of here? Talk to me. And that's if you can remember that, then you can usually do an Australian accent.
Yeah, it's still, I'm hopeless. I think it's well acknowledged. So,
well, I haven't seen the film, but I'm told that Quigley Down Under stars Tom Selleck's mustache in the title role. And as we're coming off of Movember, I think that's appropriate.
Tom Selleck is only a life support system for his mustache, pretty much. So I don't know why they don't just credit his mustache.
Tom Selleck's mustache should run for office under the Ron Swanson party.
I can't believe Tom Selleck's
the banner of facial hair.
Tom Selleck's one of those actors I'm always like, you know what? If there's anybody Quentin Tarantino should give a chance to a solid comeback for, it's Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
You know, Tom Selleck was
Put him
awesome.
in Django.
I'm sure he's one of the 98 people considered for Django at some point. Jesus Christ.
And I loved that guy. I mean, I grew up watching Magnum P.I.
Sure.
Watching him in all those great cars. I mean, it was the golden age of comedy detective shows. Like, and that was one of the best ones out there. And it was surprising that his movie career, despite several attempts to really launch it, never really took off.
Yes.
Even though a lot of his films were pretty well received.
See, Luke and I, you know, I'm kind of sorry to admit this, but not really. Our introduction to him was through Friends. He had a recurring role on Friends,
right?
And he was great on that show. Monica's boyfriend.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I wanted
to
say
Richard, Monica's boyfriend.
Yeah, huge fans of Friends, and I am unashamed.
Screw
you all. Well, I'm only ashamed the anonymity of the internet.
I'm only ashamed because we're young and we should have been watching Magnum P.I., but unfortunately...
Hey, whenever I was watching Spencer for Hire with Robert Urich, motherfuckers, that's the show. That's some shit right there. You watch Spencer and Hawk.
Luke is old beyond his years, as it turns out.
Thanks to DVD.
I'm just saying, Spencer for Hire is the shit.
Spencer for Hire was indeed pretty good, but this is a movie starring Tom Selleck.
This is a movie.
Yes, back to the movie we were talking about.
1990 Western. Now, the interesting thing about this was actually prepped for Steve McQueen, who
was still alive in 1990?
Yeah, he got sick and died before it moved to production.
Okay.
That was really inconsiderate of him.
It was pretty lame. What the hell?
But luckily he's been resurrected, because I really enjoyed Shame.
I know, what was that? I was like,
Bronson was great.
Now? Okay.
He's a director now.
Yeah.
He is. And African-American as well.
That's amazing. It's true. Reincarnation
really
is true.
Impressed. Yeah. Very impressive.
I need to go buy some crystals and sage. So this is directed by Simon Wincher, who was, at the time, really at a height of his career, because he had just made Lonesome Dove for TV, which is still arguably one of, if not the greatest television miniseries ever. I mean, it's right up there with Shogun and Roots.
Right,
I still go back and watch it every other year or so, because it's just that goddamn good. But sadly, you know, he made Quigley next, which is a pretty solid Western. After that, he pretty much just did Disney films. I don't know how anyone falls into that hole.
He did all those Jesse Stone movies, too.
Yeah, he did. Oh, not Tom. No, the director.
I'm sorry. The director. My bad.
Sorry. No, Tom Selleck didn't even have good enough of a career to say he was in a bunch of crappy
Couldn't
Disney
even get
films.
in with Disney, apparently.
No. The Jesse Stone series is actually pretty decent. It's based on a series of books also written by Robert Parker, who did... the Spencer for Hire series.
I did not know that.
Why are you bragging about the fact that you read? Okay, we get it.
Dude, yes, I do read occasionally. Robert B. Parker is an incredible writer, and the Spencer for Hire series is great, if for no other reason than the repartee between Spencer and Hawk. And the Jesse Stone novels are not quite as good, but equally decent material. that have sadly been turned into shitty direct-to-TV,
Spirits of Ohio!
direct-to-video films.
Should we check your bank account to see if there's a check made out from Robert? What's his face?
Right.
What's his
Sadly, he
name?
died. He actually died this
Robert
year.
Parker.
Robert Parker.
So there will be no more Spencer novels, and no more novels. And he also wrote Appaloosa. If you guys saw that,
Oh,
film,
Appaloosa's great.
with Ed Harris.
Okay.
That's
I
also
wasn't
a
a big
Robert B.
fan.
Parker. Yes, a lot of
Yes,
people
but you're
say
dead
that.
inside. You haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life.
That's true.
I'm not
So-
dead inside. I'm just empty. There's a difference.
No, I like the fact that you haven't seen it because now I have a new Trump card.
Yeah, he hasn't. It's a
I'm just
Wonderful
gonna sit on a
life-size
deck of
hole
Trump
in
cards.
your
Yes.
card.
You throw that down. It's like, yeah, but you didn't see It's a Wonderful Life until I see it, and then you'll just be like, fuck. You can't do accents.
Con!
No matter what you think of Appaloosa, I will say that, and I feel this is irrefutable. Appaloosa has an incredible line where it's one of those situations that you get in so many movies where you have a guy whose best friend,
There's an awkward situation between the best friend and the girlfriend. The girlfriend initiates it, and the best
Right.
friend rejects her, and she gets mad and tells the boyfriend oh, he put the moves on me. And in
Which
any
is
other
never
movie,
true, and-
never true. In any other movie, they would have sided with the girlfriend and would have caused this
Always.
big rift. But
In Appaloosa, Ed Harris just kind of sits there for a second and looks at her and goes, "No, Allie, Everett didn't do that."
just
She's
shut
like,
her the fuck down.
Shit's done now.
Yeah,
Love that line.
which is very similar to Quigley Down Under.
Bullshit.
possibly
10 points from Gryffindor.
There you go. Speaking of Gryffindor and Harry Potter.
Here's a totally unrelated subject, which is Quigley Down Under. Anyway, so it's a film. Tom Selleck plays Matthew Quigley, who's like this. I don't know how realistic it is, his sharpshooting abilities, but his idea is that he's got this experimental rifle, which at the time 1874 Sharps Buffalo rifle, which apparently is a real thing, but it's a super long distance rifle where he can hit things from like 3/4 of a mile away, and this is like,
It's like a Barrett 50 cal in
this is
the
like
90s.
yeah, we're talking about long enough ago that there weren't sniper
Was that one of the
rifles.
guns on GoldenEye on N64? Is that why you know that?
No, the Barrett 50 cal is like it's a modern gun that can literally almost rip a man in half from about
Right.
3/4
I
of
love
a
that we
mile
bring
away.
you on to do Blu-ray tech specs, and you're like the armory expert as well.
He
You
does-
are just
I happened to catch it on Mythbusters one day.
you are a mixed bag of genius, my friend.
I tell you what, I'm just a fount of useless knowledge. I assure you.
Just squeeze them and a little bit of data comes out.
Is that what they call it?
And a little noise.
I've been curious.
A little noise. So he answers an ad to go from America, or Texas, I guess, where he's used to making his trade, to Australia, and it just says looking for the best long distance shot in the world. So he gets chosen to get flown out there because rather than answer with an essay or something, he just shoots perfect shooting on the ad itself and writes Matthew Quigley, 900 yards.
Yeah.
So he goes out there, the long trip out there, and he meets up with a guy who, in fact, has hired him, which is played by Alan Rickman, who's a rich landowner who, it turns out, wants him to go out there to kill Aborigines.
See, I told you there was a tie-in to Gryffindor. There's a Harry Potter tie-in right there.
I know. I kind of eased into that. I didn't want it to be too hard on anyone there. So immediately, it's one of the great scenes where you just see them having dinner, and it's very civilized. And he's like, "So basically, I want you to, they kill these human rats out there." And then it just cuts to an outdoor scene, and you see Alan Rickman flying through the window.
Yeah.
And the idea
Which is weird because he almost never flies.
No, he
Almost
doesn't.
never.
He usually, sometimes in Die Hard, he tries to fly. He fails ultimately.
Yeah, he
But-
tried. He flew several stories before he hit
did.
the sidewalk.
It's still flying though.
Flap
isn't
your
it?
wings, damn it.
He flew straight down.
Yeah, it's funny. Alan,
Spoiler.
even if you have absolutely no interest in westerns, I'm sorry, if Alan Rickman's in the movie, I'd listen to that guy narrate bumpers for TV Guide channel. Even if he was just up there going and tonight on Fox there's another episode of The X Factor. Yay. I would
How
still
different
watch
is
that.
your Alan Rickman from your Morgan Freeman? Just out of curiosity.
The
That's
test.
it's tough. There's more soul in the Morgan
there it
Freeman.
is,
It's
yeah.
ever since I can remember, I wanted to sound like Alan Rickman.
Of course,
They're very similar,
That's
though.
Morgan
Okay.
Freeman specifically on The Shawshank Redemption, though.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was the poop who took a pee. Actually.
From South Park?
Yes.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, so this movie ends up with basically Tom Selleck's Matthew Quigley. He's out in the outback trying to survive with a crazy woman played by Laura San Giacomo, who keeps calling him by another name. And he's like, look, bitch, I'm not that other person, and you need to stop calling me that. And it's him slowly figuring out why she's crazy, what the fuck is wrong with her, and him sort of becoming an avenging angel for the Aborigines and slowly wiping out every last employee of,
this sounds like a very familiar story, just on a different continent.
Yeah.
Replacing the Native Americans with the Aborigines.
No, you could tell this exact same story and do just that. Like, not have it be at all in Australia and make them Native Americans.
Put it on a planet with some unobtainium. I'm just saying, make the Aborigines blue.
And it would power the Galaxy Quest?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I remember that we were going to cover other movies, too.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, just a real quick thing. This is, it's actually a really fun movie, but it's a standard movie. So unless you're already a big fan of that later, 80s on period of Western where they were a little, I don't know, maybe they just feel a little too clean at points. Like, you're like, oh.
Some of them. Like, I would still argue Tombstone's pretty great.
Tombstone is really great, and there are others, but
I think by and large you're right. There's just, it loses something. There was something about the Westerns that were made in the 70s that just perfectly capture, or even earlier than that, like some of the 50s Westerns, that just capture precisely what a Western should be, and have come to define the genre.
In general, in Westerns, I tend to be from 50s on a fan, although, you got to admire the earlier stuff, the John Ford classics for what they really were.
Sure.
And there's a couple films there that are kind of deconstructuralist or explore the grays more of the earlier films, but it wasn't until the 50s that it became almost the standard to be
I think maybe
this is morally complicated
The
story.
Searchers is the one that comes to mind immediately when you talk about that.
That's a great example. Or
High Noon.
Yeah, High Noon's another good one. What's the Jimmy Stewart one? The Man Who Killed Liberty Valance.
The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. That's
yeah.
great too.
But this Quigley Down Under, it's a really good transfer. It looks pretty damn good. It sounds pretty damn good, and it's great because the cinematography is actually pretty gorgeous in it. I mean, all these huge shots of how beautiful Australia is. At least,
well, that's a cheat. I mean, you can film anything in Australia, and the cinematography is going to look good.
Yeah, that's what I always say about films in New Zealand. I'm like, look, you cannot add a plus to the list at how beautiful the film looks if it's in New Zealand, because it's in fucking New Zealand.
If you're shooting a film in New Zealand and you can't make it look beautiful, you should fucking quit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you fail.
That's it. That's your master's thesis right there.
They should totally re-edit like early Peter Jackson films like Bad Taste and add sweeping vistas. So yeah, this just comes with a really forgettable amount of extras, a really short about the rebirth of the Westerns, I guess, which is really just almost one of those EPK featurette things. Yeah. Nothing really worth commenting on. But I guess let's move on to the skipping down the list a bit. Let's talk about one of the ones that this is one of the only ones on the list that Brian and I watched together. We got together. We're both excited about seeing it.
Yeah, we finally got off our butts and sat on our butts and watched this movie.
Exactly. It's one of those films that's considered to be a real classic, and I had never seen it and felt kind of shitty about it.
Yeah.
It's the 1970 Arthur Penn film Little Big Man.
Very strange movie.
It's very strange. It stars Dustin Hoffman and a guy who, by the way, in the Guinness Book of World Records, the longest, all right, so for an actor, the longest lifespan any actor has played the entire lifespan for. Mm-hmm. It's like he holds the record from like 18 to 121.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. They're basically, the movie starts in the complete antithesis of every Western format. It starts in I want to say it even starts in the early 70s. Like, it's a contemporary start for the movie.
It feels, I don't even know if it's the 1970s. It's,
Maybe
it is. Yeah, I guess it could be.
It could very well be. They don't really nail it. They don't really explain it, but you can tell that it's modern times, and there is a gentleman with a tape recorder who is a reporter, biographer, and he is meeting with the oldest fucking man on the planet.
Seriously, you think he'd be the state spokesman for the California Raisins?
Indeed, and what's really ironic about it is the guy interviewing him was played by William Hickey, who went on to prominence as Hollywood's oldest person.
Yeah.
He always played like the ancient characters in things like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, Mouse Hunt.
Mouse Hunt is awesome.
Mouse Hunt is a thing. It is a hell of a thing. But basically, he's coming in to interview a famous, and this is their term, not mine, and I'm only going to say this now because it doesn't make sense later, a famous Indian fighter played by Dustin Hoffman, and basically he's just recounting his life. Particularly, the biographer wants to know about his encounters with General Custer.
Well, in particular, because he was the only white survivor of Custer's last stand.
Yes.
At Little Big Horn.
Yes, he is. He's a Caucasian gentleman who has had a very strange past, starting with his family getting massacred when he was about 10 years old by a tribe of Indians.
Sure.
And then he's taken in by a tribe of Indians.
Sure. Happened to me.
Happens to everyone at some point in their life. And then basically it's just him recounting the story of his life as he travels from this tribe to living in this town with this white person and then living with this tribe.
The various experiences he did trying to identify, who am I as a person? Am I a guy who sells medicine with a quack at a sideshow type thing?
Yeah.
Am I a gunfighter? I mean, where is my place in the world?
Several different tropes of personalities that you would see in a Western film are featured here, including the snake oil salesman, including the overly religious zealot, and in fact, including some figures from Wild West. I don't know if it's necessarily history or legend.
Like Wild Bill Hickok?
Wild Bill Hickok.
You know, it's funny how many
Jim
people...
West.
How many people get mad at this film because of the fact they kill Wild Bill Hickok wrong. You know, Wild Bill Hickok has never been in a film where he doesn't die, as near as I can tell. I think I've seen Wild Bill Hickok.
Funny story, he
like
does actually
12
die.
times. Well, it's like, that's a given. It's like, oh, look, Wild Bill Hickok's in this film. Well,
Yeah.
he's gonna die.
If John Dillinger shows up, you don't expect him to ride off into the sunset with the girl.
Right, exactly. You know, just like you don't expect to see Hitler get killed by gunfire at the end of a movie. But I'm just, that's a...
Thank you very much, Quentin Tarantino, for your revisionist history.
But yeah, no, it's like, okay, so he didn't get killed playing cards with aces and eights. We'll live.
Yeah. It's much more dramatic and much more central to the character in this film, the way he actually does die. So
the weird thing about this movie, the really off-putting thing, and this isn't in a bad way, it's just off-putting, is that you're never really quite sure if it's a really dark tragedy or if it's just a total satire.
you can't tell.
You know?
It's very hard to... And one of the things that muddles it for me, and this is what I was referring to earlier, is he's called this great Indian fighter. He's not an Indian, and he's never fought an Indian.
Yeah.
In the movie, like, he has one skirmish as a 10-year-old with one of his brothers in the tribe, and it's one punch and it's done. But for the rest of the movie, they keep referring to him as an Indian fighter.
Right.
What? He never fights any Indians.
A bit confusing because, you know, in the final fight, he is there representing General Custer's troops, albeit in a weird,
very
sort of
reluctant
way.
and
yeah, I don't want to
forced
give
into it
away
kind of
too
way.
much.
Yeah.
But all right, so one of the things you have to accept going into this is that if you're one of those people who gets mad at history being changed, this is not
Yeah.
the movie for you, because this is, let's say, it's more of a satire, more of like a sort of, it's more of a fable about the subject matter than it is trying to be
If you're a slave to the actual details, go watch a History Channel documentary, because
Yeah.
this is not going to do it for
like
you.
for instance, in here, General Custer is he's practically insane.
He's a Looney Tune.
Yeah, and he's just self-obsessed. I mean, he is a cartoon, and I don't mean that in like he's cartoon-esque.
No,
I
it's
mean,
like
he
Bugs
is
Bunny put on a giant mustache and a Union soldier hat. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, which, you know, and a complete racist, which it's widely reported that Custer was anything but. In fact, he was generally against the plan that he was sent out to do.
Did you just use the word generally to describe Custer?
I did.
Nicely done. I don't think you meant to.
I
so
did not mean to.
Accidental pun. Take a drink.
Even my brain likes to pun without me. There's lots of little neat things like that. What I loved Faye Dunaway as the religious
so
marm
hot.
who brings him in when he's young, and she clearly doesn't believe this religious stuff because she's like just so horny. And
She clearly wants to jump his bones
one of
from
the
the
hottest
first time they
scenes
meet.
ever is when she's giving him a bath, and he's just like clearly like it's so hard he's displacing water.
Yeah. He's splashing around like a buoy.
Yeah. And yeah, she's like obviously wants nothing more than to jump on this guy and fuck him. And,
Yeah.
And you're watching it, you're just going like, I don't even know what to tell you except that Faye Dunaway was really hot.
She was so goddamn hot.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good things about this movie. I gotta say, I adored it in its own way.
It's very, very interesting, but I will tell you, it has...
You say interesting, that usually means you did not adore
Well,
it.
no, it's not that I didn't adore it. I think that there are things
So you
about
did adore it.
Damn it, Luke. I love that in a movie about the white man versus the red man, you're being completely black and white. But no, I liked it for what it was. But it's one of those movies that just feels a little too nostalgic for me and a little too long.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this felt like it went on forever. And the thing that bothered me, not so much that the runtime as the pacing, because it kept feeling like he was on the verge of turning things around, and then he would hit a low point. And he was on the verge of turning things around. It's like, I understand that that's what life is a series of ups and downs, but I got places to be. Come on.
There's a lot of films that have this sort of like the story of a life movies that are like this. And there's lots of examples.
Sure.
I mean, just more recently thinking The Curious Case of Benjamin Button is
right.
an example of one of those where it's like all these various experiences that built up together to make the man he eventually becomes being, or in the case of Benjamin Button, the small child.
Which is funny because nice. At the beginning of Little Big Man, he kind of looks like young Benjamin Button, technically.
Yeah.
But no, one of the things that really stood out for me is there's some really disturbing imagery in this movie. I mean, it's a movie about, people being slaughtered wholesale. And I don't want to give it too much away, but there is a shot of an infant getting shot in the face.
Yeah. No, wow, that's crazy, isn't it?
Easily one of the most disturbing things that has ever crept in my brain and now won't leave. Like, I see bloody papooses everywhere I go, or papooses everywhere I go.
This was very much intended to reference both the Holocaust in some ways with some of the stuff that was that the director Arthur Penn was putting into it, and Vietnam. And in fact, the character of his Indian wife in there was intentionally a Vietnamese woman who was playing that. Interesting little factoid to add to your experience.
Plus, infant shot in the face.
Infant shot in the face.
And nothing, I mean, like, there's stuff in this movie that's violent, but there is nothing even close to that level of violence. And then when you see it, it's just like, no, wait, clearly we're seeing something that's not there. But then you back it up, it's like, no, they really just shot an infant in the face.
It's really graphically violent throughout it. And it constantly takes, sweeps your feet out from under you, because it's like, most of the time it's just kind of like, haha, this is cute. It's good performances and it's quirky. Then, Jesus Christ, that baby just got shot in the face!
Yeah.
So, one interesting thing from this is, like, a line that's been used in pop culture repeatedly, and notably by the Klingons in Star Trek, has been used over and over again, is the line, "Today is a good day to die." And it got its start in this movie. That's where it came from.
You're welcome, Klingons.
And, Shakespeare is always better in the original Klingon.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed it is.
All right, so here's a movie I don't think you guys got to see, was The Big Country. Did you get to watch this?
No, but I heard that in Big Country, dreams stay with you.
It's true, they do. We can't stop here. This is Big Country. All right.
Sorry. This is just going to be pun tennis, isn't it?
Or internet references.
Yes.
This is a 1950...
Bryant Reeves hasn't played basketball in a long time.
Wow, and Luke pulling out a Big Country sports reference. Nicely done.
For all 4 of you out there that watch sports as well.
You realize 8 people are going to comment with a, woohoo! Someone talked about
sport reference! Have Luke on every show, replace that jackass Brian kid.
So this is a 1958 American Western by William Wyler, same guy who did Ben-Hur, for the record.
Yes.
That starred Gregory Peck.
Decent film.
No, yeah, it's all right.
Regarded as a film worth watching.
Gregory Peck plays a former sailor from a rich family that's marrying. His fiancée lives out in a giant ranch house out in the West, and he's traveled out there to join her and her meet her family in preparation for them to get married. And he goes out there and immediately he's treated as like, oh, look at the city boy coming in here all fancy with his fancy.
We don't take kindly to your taps around here.
I mean, mainly from a group of thugs who live in the neighborhood who are led by Chuck Connors.
Chuck Connors.
I know, right? You're like,
Chuck Connors of Tourist Trap? The late 70s horror film that I love?
I don't know, because like most people, I haven't seen Tourist Trap.
That's so sad.
Oh, Tourist Trap is awesome.
Anyway,
I gotta take your word. He was on The Rifleman, was one of his big...
We're going to do that thing where we get off topic because we haven't seen this particular movie. But yes.
Maybe he was, but Wikipedia didn't feel like listing it. No, he was. Yes. He was in that. Anyway, so he's like the whole time, Gregory Peck, you're like, what is this guy, a pussy or something? He's like, no, don't worry about it. Relax. It's okay. I can take it. It's not a big deal. These guys, let them have their fun. I've been to ports all over the world, and there's drunken assholes in every single one of those ports, and it doesn't do anything to me to watch them decide to poke a little fun at me. It's how men react to stuff.
Sure.
And meanwhile, as this is going on, and other people, including the head ranch hand at the ranch, where Burl Ives, who won Best Supporting Actor for his performance here, is the I'm sorry, no, Burl Ives is the bad dad. Sorry. The good dad was a totally
different guy.
That sang
Silver and Gold and Rudolph, we know. Go
exactly,
ahead.
Sure.
As a snowman.
But even Charlton Heston is the the ranch hand who's at the good ranch, as it were, who's secretly in love with the girl Gregory Peck is marrying, and he kind of resents him, and he sets him up to do some shit. Everybody's fucking with him, and he doesn't seem to want to show anyone that he's actually a total badass. Although every time there's no one else around but us, the audience, and the cameraman, he goes and does that shit in private just to, like, prove something to himself.
Right.
Like, so the audience is assured he's not a pussy, he's just kind of weird.
Right. So basically it's just Gregory Peck walking around going, man, it's hard out here for a pacifist.
It is, and he is kind of a pacifist. He's like one of those guys who goes, look, when it comes down to violence, I can handle myself. I know what to do, but it's stupid. In fact, there's this really famous scene where he and Charlton Heston have in the context of the film, and like what looks like an hours-long fist fight to the point where they're both bloody and near unconscious. And, they fight each other to a standstill. And Gregory Peck goes, there, you feel better? Did we solve anything there? What was that for? And walks away. It's like,
which is weird because so much of manliness in these films is measured, either at the end of a gun barrel or by how adept you are at fisticuffs.
Well, and this is one of the only pacifist westerns, as a lot of them are called, that doesn't involve someone who used to be a bad guy.
Right.
Or used to be somebody who was super violent all the time. Like
Sure.
Unforgiven being a notable example of that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only ones, really. And it really, really works. I mean, Gregory Peck is so good in this. You root for him so hard. He comes between these two feuding families that... it's the whole thing was obviously a take on the Cold War at the time of them saying, what we should do? We should take the Russian premier, we should take the American president, we should put them in a pit and let them cage match that shit out.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's nothing new. I mean, High Noon's about McCarthyism.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, Westerns were just another case of, art reflecting the mores of the time.
No, very true. And this is a great example, but it's a super long film. It's almost 3 hours, but you won't notice. It goes by really, really fast. I mean, William Wyler is an amazing director, and he keeps us surprisingly tight considering that, it's that long. Terrific performances all around. It really is considered to be one of the great Westerns. And I recommend it, especially, like I said, for the neo-Western, the later revisionist style. This is maybe one of the masterpieces of the example.
I can't believe I haven't seen this. I mean, it's almost as bad as somebody not having seen It's a Wonderful Life.
It's not as bad.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, then you're still the worst one in the room.
No, you're right. I am still the worst one in the room. Wait, you've seen Star Wars, right?
Oh, of course.
Damn it.
Even the versions that are unfucked with.
Every once in a while you meet someone who actually hasn't, and then you realize that I will win over you in everything until you actually watch Star Wars.
It's like they're speaking bocce to me when they say they haven't seen Star Wars.
But no, it doesn't come with a bunch extra. It's got a short featurette, a trailer. It looks beautiful. Totally.
After 3 hours, you really don't need much.
Yeah, who's gonna watch the bonus features after 3 hours? Seriously.
Unless it's like a gangster rap battle with Gregory Peck.
I almost always wonder why with TV series, why there are so many extras on some of them. Because you're like, seriously, I just watched a whole season of television. I'm not gonna be
especially on the
going
ones that
back
are like,
and watching every episode with commentary.
especially on the ones that are hour-long episodes. It's like, seriously, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving on.
Moving right along.
Let's see. You know what? Here's a movie that you got to see that I did not get to see. With Sleeping Beauty. Now, before we get into this, I'm going to preface it with saying I saw director Catherine Breillat. I'm probably saying her name totally wrong, but
Luke, I got nothing.
You're a French major. Come on.
They probably don't tell you how to pronounce names per se.
I don't know, Breillat.
Who's very much
Breillat, I would guess.
a controversial, very in-your-face art director who does a lot of films that have to deal with sexual mores and that sort of thing. I saw her film Fat Girl, which I enjoyed, but in that sort of like, okay, I mean, it was clearly good at what it was trying to do. Like I said, I don't think enjoyed is the right word. I appreciate it.
Isn't Fat Girl the prequel to Precious?
No,
it
is not. In fact, Precious looks like a Disney film compared to what happens in Fat Girl.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's pretty
Catherine
heavy.
Breillat is very, very dark.
Oh, so you do know how to pronounce her
I
name.
just said I would guess Breillat.
Okay,
I have no idea, actually, looking at those letters. They don't make
And we just lost all one of our French listeners.
Married.
Quel dommage. Yes, Luke is always my authority on French films because he likes them a lot more than I do. I've managed to find a few, particularly things by Jean-Pierre Melville and the like, that have actually tickled my fancy. French tickled my fancy. But there are so many French films that I don't like because I feel like they have this heavy air of pretension to them. And then we watch Sleeping Beauty.
Which, unfortunately, is going to do absolutely nothing to dissuade Brian of his notions, because it is the type of French film that makes people hate French film.
Ah, okay.
And
what's it about?
Well, ostensibly, it's Sleeping Beauty, but it's almost as if Brayock gets bored with Sleeping Beauty about 20 minutes in and decides that Narnia would be a better place to visit.
Take a drink. Narnia reference.
Narnia.
No,
Everybody drink.
Seriously, it's so insane. Basically, the concept is it's Sleeping Beauty. You know, the witch curses her and she's going to die, and then the three fairies come in and try and fix it.
I'm sorry, the three fairies who were late to stop the curse okay, two things wrong with the opening. Two things completely wrong with the opening. The first is that the witch is portrayed as like this wonderful woman who's caring for the child and everything's great, and she's like, the mom has no fear in her face whatsoever.
So she's not really a witch.
She doesn't seem like does she not seem like a witch?
It seems like she's the grandmother.
Yeah, she seems like an old family friend or the grandmother. Like,
no one is
fine.
concerned that she's there. No, it's very strange.
You have no reason to suspect that anything nefarious is going on
until the fairies show up. Well, she's like, I cursed her.
Yeah,
all right, she's gonna die. Bye.
She's like, welcome. She's gonna die when she's 16. Okay, bye, guys. And you're like, wait.
And literally, she walks out of the room, and you're like, the fuck just happened?
Well, maybe she has to take a while to like charge the spell, like you do in some RPG games.
Yes, there you go.
So she had to act.
She didn't have it on her hot bar at the time.
At some point, wouldn't somebody seem afraid of her if she's the kind of person that does that? And the reason that the fairies are late to stop her from doing this is that they were all bathing together and laughing.
Yeah, there is a little.
There,
I was about to say there's none of her of Brea's trademark dark sexuality going on, but I guess there is some nice nudity there as they bathe each other lovingly.
That is what the
Fae
do, by the way. They bathe a lot,
and that's fine. But
which is funny because we hear often that the French don't. But here comes Sleeping Beauty to prove us wrong. But no, so they set it up that the fairy's intervention is that she will sleep for 100 years, and during that 100 years she'll get to go off and like have adventures in the dream world. So then we follow her in the dream world, which starts with her like getting attacked by a troll, and to get past him, she has to, I shit you not, bowl a human skull successfully 3 times in a row into 3 little piles of human bones.
And knock them over. Yeah, basically.
Which looks, when she does it looks like about the easiest thing that anyone has ever done in the history of the universe, because she's so good at it, and the troll is so surprised that anyone could do this, because it's never happened.
Her survival is contingent on her ability to play Bozo's grand prize game.
Essentially,
it's the dumbest fucking scene.
Only they don't change distances. They're all equidistant.
And then she goes on and she like meets up with this family, she lives with the family for a while, and then out of nowhere, the son becomes this like raging cunt.
Not out of nowhere. It was because he somehow had an experience with what is basically the White Witch.
He sees the White Witch, and then a snowflake falls into his eyeball somehow, and he becomes an asshat.
So he didn't get bitten by a cunt basket first?
No. It's not even a wear cunt basket situation.
No, and then so the little girl goes off, and she encounters a dwarf, and it really is Narnia. Like it was too much.
And it falls into his eyes.
We actually haven't seen the end. It could be a brilliant film. It could tie everything together wonderfully, and we wouldn't know. I highly, highly doubt it.
Yeah, the snowflake actually goes into his eye, so technically it's 28 cunts later. But no,
or the beginning of any given Lost episode.
Exactly. The problem I had with it is it's completely uncertain of not only its tone, but what century it takes place in.
Oh yeah, the time period is completely up in the air. She's a princess. They established that she's a princess. I assume we're in France because that's what everyone is speaking.
Yeah.
But they're like subway trains and I don't know. The fairies. The fairies literally use sticks.
So it's not like the
branches are their wands.
That's the thing. Is
it has possibly the worst effects of any modern film.
It's really bad.
It's asylum level special effects.
Oh wow,
that's really bad. And the thing is, like, you can have princesses in modern day, obviously, but the whole beginning of the film takes place.
I'm sorry,
but it takes place in a fucking castle where everyone's dressed in like at the earliest 19th century clothing.
Which, if they were in England, would make sense. Like, they have castles and princesses.
It makes no sense, and it delights in being obfuscating and keeping all of its cards close to its chest and being like, you have to figure it out. And it's like, fuck you.
And your
job is to tell a story.
You don't see an adolescent girl put a worm on her vagina. So, really...
See, that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
I was hoping that
not
we'd get
quite
to
a
see
Bray
that.
Wyatt film.
So I would watch.
No one gets raped? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling
At
me?
least not in the first hour.
No, but French Peter Dinklage does show up, so there's at least that.
Oh, yeah.
So we're back to Narnia. Take a drink.
Oh, boy. All right, so let's move on here. I actually watched this today. I didn't think I'd have time to, and it was one of the titles that I was expecting to not like from the get-go because it said 50 Cent was in it, and I don't think he's ever been in a film that's good. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure.
I can't come up with anything immediately.
Like I want to.
Once a month, a title comes out direct to DVD that he is in.
Sure.
If
Did
not,
you see, the last one had Bruce Willis in it.
I watched it.
How the hell?
And the one before that had Val Kilmer in it.
I saw that.
I can
too.
understand getting
Shit.
Val Kilmer, but how did they get fucking
Well, I
Bruce
think he was
Willis
the
in that
producer.
movie?
Come out to this movie. We'll have a few laughs. We'll get together.
Well, you're getting good at these impressions.
I'm on radio. I got to do something.
Now do him if he was French.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Tu ne parles pas français. Quel dommage.
Close enough. Anyway, so this next one we're talking about is 13, which unfortunately here was largely direct-to-video. I believe it probably played at some festivals or something.
It was mostly direct-to-video.
Yeah, but it is an English-language remake of a 2005 French film called...
13 Zemetti.
There you go. 13 Zemetti.
Which I actually like.
That
is a
13
French
Zemetti
film.
is brilliant.
Now, what does Zemetti mean in French?
I have no fucking idea.
I don't know that it's distinctly a French word. It may be like a variation of like French Guiana or something. Like it's very strange.
Well, either way, apparently this was relatively close to the original because it's directed and written by the guy who wrote and directed the original, which doesn't happen very often in remakes. And when it
doesn't always bode well.
Doesn't always bode well. Doesn't always pay off.
Remember when John Carpenter remade Assault on Precinct 13 and set it on Mars? That was really good.
No, you know why I don't remember? What were we talking about? Something. I don't know. Let's get back to the other thing. Something weird with my brain every time I start thinking about that movie. What movie?
It's a repressed memory. I love it.
All right, so here, this story follows this guy who's a younger guy who's an electrician who's working fixing these people's house. Who this guy appears to be a criminal of some sort, and he overhears a conversation about some really well-paid job and an envelope that's coming for him with the instructions.
Very hush-hush.
Right. So this guy dies, of a heroin overdose, and so the main character's like, well, fuck it, I'm going to pretend to be this guy because my dad is in and out of the hospital and we can't afford the bills. We're going to lose the house and all that.
So he's willing to take a lot of risk. He doesn't know what's going on.
He has no idea what this
But he's
plan
willing to
is.
take the risk because he's trying to save his father.
So he goes on this thing. The whole time on his heels are the police who somehow are clued into something going on with this envelope. It's never entirely clear to me how they even know to follow this guy. But there it is. So it's the guy from Dexter. I forget the actor's name who plays the cop. With the weird accent.
Angel?
Yeah, who plays Angel. David Zayas. And so he gets out there, gets away from the cops, and it turns out the job is he is one of, I can't even remember, it's not 13, it's more than that, men. It's just his number is 13 in it.
I want to say it's like 20 or 20. I guess it would have to be an
the
even number.
It was in the 20s, but it's a group of men who basically stand around in a circle with a gun pointed at each other's head, playing Russian roulette.
Yeah.
And each one has a number, and a bunch of rich guys who each sponsored one of them to come there have some elaborate betting system of which the specifics are completely impossible to decipher.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
It's kinda
there's
like
no
craps.
way. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's like they have like little
Or Keno.
They have little tiles that they give each other that don't seem to have anything to do with anything. I don't know how it works. Don't worry.
It still makes
about
more sense
that.
than Pai Gow. I don't know what the fuck
I don't know.
Pai
It's
Gow
funny
is.
listening to you explain it to me because I haven't seen the remake and I have seen the original. I'm like, nope.
Didn't make sense there either.
What? No. I'm just like I don't remember there being any tiles and.
There's a lot of things in the remake that weren't in the original that really don't need to be in a remake for any kind of cultural bridge or adaptation's sake. Like,
I'm curious to know if all the subplots went nowhere in the original. They
didn't have as many subplots because they were probably worried they would go nowhere.
Well, see, and here there are these subplots that seem to be there only because they're like, look, we got this actor, so we got to do something more with them than just have them be in it. Like Mickey Rourke, for instance, plays this guy who was abducted from a Mexican prison to be brought into this.
Weird.
And there's a little sort of subplot with him that plays out to absolutely nothing.
He coasts his way.
That's part of what I really enjoy about the original is that you follow the one guy who you've been following since the beginning, since he was cleaning the house or fixing the roof or whatever, and you really are only concerned with him. Like, you have no concept of who anybody else in the room is at all.
No, they
There's
really
no
don't go into a lot of backstory. No.
Like, you get a sense there too. I don't know don't even know if this made it in the remake, but 2 of the contestants are brothers.
Yeah, that's in the remake.
That's Jason
Okay.
Statham and
Mickey Rourke.
No. Winstone, Ray Winstone.
Oh, Ray Winstone. Yes,
Okay,
that's right.
so
are
not
brothers.
50 Cent.
Yeah, no, not 50. 50 Cent is like another one of those, hey, we got 50 Cent, we got to do something with them.
He's
See,
completely
and that's
wasted. Not that
unfortunate,
he's
because
a
that's
great
what I
actor,
like,
but
is that you don't get a sense of who they are.
it's
Right.
muddled.
Yeah,
The remake is completely
That's
muddled with all
unfortunate.
these
And it
backstories.
does feel like one of those. We got this. We got to find a way to sell this to a bigger public. So and we've got these stars who are available for this little window.
Yeah.
So we'll just have them be small parts in here, and we'll write a little bit extra for them. It feels like one of those deals. This is the only way we can sell this movie to get made at all. So find a way to make it work.
And I don't mean to sound like the film school douchebag, but I like that the original's in black and white.
Yeah.
It
just
really
feels-
works for it.
It feels stark and cold, like, I don't know, the basement of a place where they play Russian roulette.
Well, and
With a light bulb.
But
with
the
one light
strongest
bulb.
thing about this film is that aspect to it, because when you're watching these Russian roulette sequences play out, they're nerve-wracking.
They are.
I mean, Jesus Christ. And you got Michael Shannon as the barker, the guy who's out there yelling the rules and telling people what to do. Why they got Michael Shannon for that, I have no idea. But there he is, Michael
This
Shannon
is a very
fans.
strange cast.
It's a really strange cast. And the thing is, like, you have this, you're right, I mean, it is powerful to see what is essentially a daisy chain of potential murder.
You brought sex into this conversation?
Yes, I did.
Wow,
You're
okay.
welcome.
That's
But it
disturbing.
doesn't come close to matching the impact of the first one, and mainly because you don't know what these other people's motivations are, so you don't know, one, how keen they are to die. You don't know if they're suicidal. And the other thing is you don't know how malicious they are, so it's just one of those things that, like, of course everything, like, there's the suspense in this movie is easy because it's like it's very literally a gun with a bullet in it, you spin the chamber.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more easily suspenseful than that.
Sure.
But I don't feel like any of this the side plots or the backstories are necessary at all, and I feel like ultimately it's just like what you said, Cyrus. Like, you get to the end, you're like, none of this really made a difference. None of
Yeah.
this played out to a logical conclusion.
In fact, even so, the story proper ends after an hour. The problem is it's an hour and a half film.
Yeah.
And so it spends 30 minutes dithering around afterwards, wrapping up to what I guess they consider to be a twist ending. It's not really. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
In the context of it, we're like, really? Did they do that just because they could do that? I mean, they just couldn't figure out.
But the
what to
thing
have
is, like,
happen
short
next.
of putting an extra bullet in the gun, it's not like anyone can even cheat at this. So everyone's got the same odds.
I think it's a shame because there's a lot about this film that does work. Like I said, I think the whole time period when they're actually, inside of the complex where they're basically being imprisoned and forced to do this game actually plays out really well. It's just that when you ultimately discover that those little other story threads aren't going to pay off, that is disappointing. Which is even more disappointing that Mickey Rourke is interesting in it. I was like, wow, this guy, I love this Mickey Rourke character. I can hardly wait to see what they do. Oh, okay.
So yeah, and it ends up because there's no conclusion. It just feels like he's coasting his way through another loose cannon performance. It's like, oh, he's the guy they can't control. Whoop de fucking shit.
And once again, if you don't like 50 Cent like I don't, I think he's one of the worst actors working today. He's barely in the film.
He's so wasted. Like, what's the point of having? Because
He's not
honestly,
wasted.
the reason that he does, yeah,
He's
he's not in the tournament, so he doesn't get literally
he's
wasted.
properly unnecessary.
Yeah, and it's like he gets put in movies anymore because it's like the novelty thing, and it's like, why are you even going to use him as a novelty cell if he's not even really involved that much in the movie?
No, very true. It does look pretty darn good, I gotta say.
Sure.
And unfortunately, once again,
It looked better in black and white, though.
no extras at all. I'm sure it did. You know what? If you're going to put this out and you really want to sell it, why don't you sell it like put in a double feature with the original
Definitely.
version?
Yeah,
And
that would be
if
amazing.
you guys are, if you've listened to this and you're at all curious, I implore you to watch the French version at least first. If you want to watch this after, that's fine. But I feel like the French version is a much better way to experience this story. And I looked it up, and the filmmaker is actually from Georgia, the USSR Georgia, not the not the
team that
not
just
the
lost the
Southern
SEC
state.
championship. There's another sports reference.
Snap. And Zemeti means 13 in Georgian, which means this film's title is 1313, which I'm a big fan of for redundancy purposes.
It's not like Baron Zemetti.
No, apparently it's 1313. Snap.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
yeah, 13 Zemeti is quite a good film.
Yeah, I have
the
original.
remake.
I really do
perhaps
want to
not
check
so
out the
much.
original because everything you're saying makes me think, wow, all the elements in this that work so well without all the elements that didn't work at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it actually reminds me of a Spanish film, and I don't want to get too off topic, but if you're going to go ahead and rent 13's Medi, rent another film by Juan Carlos Fernandilla called Intacto, which has a lot of similarities, I feel, to this story.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Intacto quite a bit, so good to know. All right, moving on. Here's a film I hadn't seen in a long time, and I remembered fondly, admittedly, largely...
I remember fondling myself.
Well,
yes, indeed.
I don't have to remember back real far for that. Because it was an early Angelina Jolie film. A young Angelina Jolie starred in the HBO, made-for-HBO movie Gia, which was, of course, the life story of Gia Ferengi.
Pharyngeal jaws.
Couldn't look any less like a Ferengi. And it was the film that, like, when I think back of Angelina Jolie's career, like, the two films that she has honestly truly been just devastatingly sexy in was this and Hackers. Hackers where she wasn't even supposed to be all that sexy. But,
where she played Acid Rain.
But damn.
Acid
Her name was... Oh, I'm sorry. Acid... Is it Acid Burn? It is Acid Burn. I think you're right.
But here she's a tragic life of a well-known model who, I guess... As much as it's possible for me to assert such things, change the modeling industry. I mean, I don't know. Did she? Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Well, the film certainly changed the Kleenex industry.
It certainly did, because
big boost to the Kleenex industry.
Angelina Jolie takes her clothes off and totally a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you hear and you're like, oh, Angelina Jolie is naked in Gia, and along this time there are lots of movies with nudity, and you're like, all right, it's maybe 30 seconds, 60 seconds. No, it's like 27 minutes of Angelina Jolie naked.
So much naked Jolie in this movie. Yeah. It's like tits
How
out
much
Tomb Raider.
is there?
And if that wasn't enough for you, she is in a lesbian on-again, off-again affair with Elizabeth Mitchell, who also stays naked for a good portion of the film in having lesbian sex with Angelina Jolie, which, wow, I don't know what to tell you. My both heads just exploded thinking about that.
Delicious.
This movie should be called Tits Out Tomb Raider.
The surprising thing is, even with all that, and I know some people go, oh, I don't need to watch the movie, I watch the clips online.
I have my favorite scenes bookmarks and they just play in succession.
You know what? It does it makes a difference because the movie makes you fall in love with this character that Angelina Jolie plays.
It is actually a much better movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a decent film. It may have been spank bang material for a long time, but the film itself is really quite good.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those rise and fall stories. Somebody starts to get like the fast road to fame, ends up doing too many drugs. Terrible tragedy ensues.
You're right that she's never been hotter, except maybe in Cyborg 2.
She's in Cyborg 2?
You bet your ass she's in Cyborg 2.
Our expert at useless movie
bullshit
trivia.
VHS movies that no one should ever watch.
This is... I really recommend this movie. I didn't think I would watching it a second time. I was expecting, okay, I know I was probably just more like, oh, she's naked when I first saw it on HBO. But this is 5 minutes longer, and some of those minutes are indeed naked minutes.
I was going to say, is any more of those 5 minutes more of bare acid burn?
Yeah, I believe there is some more nudity here in those 5 minutes.
Nice.
And it's got a really great cast. It's got Mercedes Rule as Gia's mom. It's got Faye Dunaway as basically her agent.
Faye Dunaway,
the one who
back.
ran her career. Mila Kunis, one of her first roles ever, was the young Gia.
Oh, that's
in this
right.
film. In fact, something they even referenced on an actual Family Guy episode.
Oh, really?
On the record, yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of funny. This won 2 Golden Globes and Emmy. It's not crap. You'd think it probably is one of those films famous only for those scenes. It's not. It's a little finger waggy, like, see, if she just lived a normal life and been a good girl, none of this would have happened. But at the same time...
She didn't whip out her Golden Globes all the time.
But at the same time, it's like has nothing negative at all to say about, like, her gay relationship in the film.
It's very free of judgment of her sexuality.
No,
in terms
absolutely.
of her sexual orientation.
It doesn't have anything to say about it at all. In fact, it just is.
It's just there. It's just part of who she is.
It's just something you will need to be comfortably situated and alone for. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah.
With socks and Kleenex on hand.
All right, one more of these, and we'll take our next break. You know what? This was one of the most fun films that I was excited super excited to get on Blu-ray. I've never even owned this on DVD, although I did have it on VHS.
Of course, which I still do. Best on video.
I'm sure you do.
Watched it this afternoon.
Indeed. The Cannonball Run, a 1981 comedy film that solidified my love for Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise as one of the greatest comedy duos ever don't
Who look
care.
like they look like the same guy in various stages of an eating disorder. Like
Before, after.
Burt Reynolds is really good looking, and Dom DeLuise is plump, but he still looks kind of like Burt Reynolds. It's very maybe it's the mustache. I don't know.
Yeah, they look like they should be brothers.
I thought they like the first couple times I saw this movie when I was younger. I always thought they were just because they look so much alike. It wasn't even to a recent revisit. I was like, oh, they're not actually brothers.
It's very clear that these guys have been friends for a super long time.
Yeah.
And in fact, that was true. They had been. And you got that whole college roommates vibe from them. The way they needle each other, play around, have established things that they do to each other.
Well,
like
that
pranks they pull
character
on
was
each other.
based on one of Burt Reynolds' college football teammates.
Oh, well, there you go. There
So
already
that
some
makes a lot
stuff
of
to
sense.
draw from there. But what this follows is it's based on a real, it doesn't exist anymore. I think it only went on for 5 years, but it was a cross-country illegal race called it's called the Cannonball something.
It is.
No,
I know.
It wasn't called the Cannonball Run, but it was something.
No,
it was
it
the
has
Cannonball something.
It has a much longer name that they shortened, thankfully, to the Cannonball Run.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
But
Shit.
in fact, this is the third movie based on that race. There were two others in 1976.
Gumball Rally? Was that one?
Gumball Rally one, and the other one was just called Cannonball or Carquake and had David Carradine. And
I have seen Cannonball. I didn't know
directed by Paul Bartel.
I didn't realize they were related. I've seen Cannonball.
Indeed, they were. This is actually one of the most interesting things about this movie, and I know you don't usually think Cannonball Run. There's lots of interesting things to be said behind the scenes of this.
We're about to intellectually
Cannonball Run.
deconstruct Cannonball Run.
But it was directed by Hal Needham, who was a lifelong stuntman and quite a famous one. Had never really done much past that, except he had been on his own writing scripts, and he talked Burt Reynolds into, taking a look at Smokey and the Bandit. And Burt Reynolds was so taken with it and with his conversations with him, he talked Hal into directing it. And they went on to do a bunch of movies together.
Yeah.
They did, the Cannonball Run is his, Stroker Ace, Hooper, and just for shits and grins, he also wrote Megaforce.
Yes! Megaforce! The good guys always win, even in the 80s.
Megaforce is awesome.
But so here's one of the fun things, like in this race that goes on in this movie, and like I said, keep in mind, this isn't even mildly drama. This is like the silliest kind of comedy.
This is basically if you took Vanishing Point, breaded it, country fried it, and then put a mustache on it.
Sure. They drive Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds and their abducted Farrah Fawcett drives a ambulance that's been souped up, which, as a point of fact, was the actual vehicle driven by the writer-director Hal Needham in the actual race in 1978. It is the exact vehicle that they used to do it. And that's kind of a neat little whoa.
They are so
really?
dedicated to authenticity in the Cannonball Run, you have no idea.
It's funny that that's actually true.
It's true. Like, I sound like I'm being snarky, but they really did.
Lots of the extras are played by people who are involved with the race. Like the guy who actually started the race, who was the editor of Car and Driver magazine, has multiple roles in the film.
Right,
it's
right.
like, wow, there's so much
Just
shit
keep
like
showing
that.
up.
But this is one of the most fun, like, road trip massive ensemble films ever made.
Such a weird cast, though. Because it is an extensive cast, but it also covers a lot of different entertainment mediums.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you've got Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise. You've also got Farrah Fawcett, Adrienne Barbeau, and I think even Peter Fonda shows up at one point.
Yeah.
But then you also have Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. as a team, and Terry Bradshaw, who at the time was the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Who was the guy? Oh, and Mel Tillis is the guy who he's racing with. They were trying to develop a spin-off TV show based on their characters. At one point.
Was the second Smokey and the Bandit before or after this? Do you know? Because he shows up in that movie too.
I don't know off the top of my head. No. But yeah, no, there's so many people in here that are my favorite is Roger Moore playing Roger Moore, who apparently is confused that he's not James Bond.
Yeah, he thinks he really is
James Bond in the film, but he's not.
Complete with the music.
Yeah, with the music and a badass car. Incidentally, the only time he ever drove an Aston Martin.
There's a rumor that after this movie came out, the James Bond studio forced him to sign a contract that said, "You will not parody this character in films."
That's what I've heard. There's Jackie Chan. And a young Jack, and he's notable because
for a couple of reasons. First of all, this is a co-production with Golden Harvest.
Yeah.
And I feel like the sole reason for that is because they wanted to get Jackie Chan in the movie.
Yeah.
So they went to all this work to get him, and then they make him play a Japanese race car driver. But
he was pissed off about that too.
They don't change his name.
Yeah.
His name. They call him Jackie Chan, but he's They were so convinced that no one in America would be able to know that Chan is not a Japanese name, and then they're like, no, we're not done yet. We're going to push this even further by having Jamie Farr play an Arab sheik. It's a little racist, but yes, Jackie Chan is in there as well.
It's more than just a little, but it's kind of racist in the same way that like the Leog is racist. They hit every single thing. They hit sexism and they hit every single race. They just go at it and like so constantly with the members of said races and sexes participating in the joke that you just kind of have to laugh along.
They're racist in the same way, meaning that Corey Coleman threatened to cancel Cannonball Run?
Yeah, just like that.
Okay,
yeah.
very
You
cool.
didn't know he was the guy who did that?
I didn't know.
I want to say there was actually a TV series of Cannonball Run at some point, but I don't think there actually was.
And the thing
feels like there should have been.
There really should have been. I would have watched it week to week.
But about Jackie Chan
specifically. Oh, yeah, Jackie
though.
Chan. So I'm sure you're familiar with Jackie Chan. At the end of a lot of his movies, he has bloopers, which blooper implies that they're funny and lighthearted, and most of the time it's guys like inches away from death when a stunt goes wrong.
Yeah.
But he actually got that from Hal Needham, because Hal Needham is famous for that. He would put bloopers at the end of Smokey and the Bandit. There's a bunch of bloopers, and Jackie Chan actually took that from Hal Needham after they worked together in this movie. So that's actually something that Jackie Chan took from Hal Needham, was the blooper reel at the end of the movie.
And you know what? As much as I love this movie, the blooper reel is my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's always good, especially with this cast. Come on.
Yeah,
Give me a break.
there's lines of this movie that I remember from the bloopers more than actual lines in the movie. If you don't go away, I'm gonna stuff these bleeds up your nose. What, these bleeds?
Yes. Dude, there's so much good stuff. Seriously, get this movie. If you haven't seen it, watch this movie.
I adore this film. I could watch this over and over and over again.
So much fun.
And I have. And
if you as a kid were a fan of Wacky Racers from on the Cartoon Network, definitely watch this movie, because it feels like a live action Wacky Racers.
And it's a decent transfer to the Blu-ray. It looks and sounds as good as you'd expect it to. I mean, it's not going to blow you away, but neither will you be sitting there going, that was kind of messed up looking. It's obviously the best version you can get of it, and it comes complete with the commentary with Hal Needham and the producer talking about their experiences making it.
You're not going to be sitting there going, this ruins the visual integrity of Cannonball Run.
No. Yeah. So, anyway, I kind of wish it had been packaged with Canonball Run 2, which is obviously not anywhere near as good of a film, but it's still got a lot of solid parts to it.
Hell yeah, it does.
Because it's like, well, what the hell? What are you going to release that on Blu-ray by itself?
If you're going to make us buy all the Jurassic Parks, then at least give us Cannonball 2.
Like Cannonball Mega Set.
With Mega Force!
With Mega Force.
Awesome!
God, I would kill for a Mega Force Blu-ray.
I believe that. I do. I'm slightly frightened.
Yes, but you forget that Brian and I are the guys that own Megaforce for the Atari 2600.
It's such a great game, dude. Seriously.
It is.
I think I actually had that game at some point.
It's really fun.
Even now,
that
it's
and the
fun.
Fantastic Voyage game are like maybe two of the best movie adaptation games for Atari.
Yeah.
And you can read more about Brian's experiences with video games based on movies.
Motion Pixels, eventually on ain'titcool.com again.
All right, so before we go into a break, let's just talk about a couple more things we're giving away.
Giveaway!
I like that. That's very enthusiastic.
You.
One of the things we got sent is, I don't know if you guys saw World War II in HD.
I don't know if you guys saw World War II. You might not be old enough.
No, nobody but Leon was old enough for that.
Unfortunately, his eyes were kind of going, and you didn't really see it in HD.
At that point, he was, but this is like, it was a series on the History Channel.
Are you holding World War II in HD on a standard def DVD?
I have the two versions of it here.
Okay.
Yeah, I have.
But still, though.
Yeah, I know it's kind of weird.
Wait. It's called World War II in HD, and it's a standard DVD.
Well, no, I have two things here.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Right. No, that's okay. I have two things. The big winner of this one the first person to answer will get the brand new collector's edition of World War II in HD, which is this gorgeous looking big box of the Blu-ray of the complete series that come with two whole new, basically over hour-long episodes based on other aspects of it that have been added to the series. And this is one of the great, if you're even vaguely interested in World War II history, of which God knows there's a dearth of stuff.
I think even if you're not a history buff, like people that call themselves casual history buffs say that because they're interested in World War II.
Right. Yeah. Sure. And this is one of the more interesting. They pulled lots of footage out and no one has ever seen before put together for this.
Good stuff.
So the winner of this one, World War II in HD, will get the Blu-ray. The runner-up will get the original DVD version of it, which still looks really good.
Yes,
you can make a DVD look really good. Can DVD get up to like 720? No? Not even plausibly?
Well, because 720p is 1280 by 720.
Yeah.
And standard def DVD is 720 by 480.
Well,
so yes, the number 720 is
involved.
Yes.
I knew it.
But the resolutions are in fact different.
All right,
I just want to crack your head open and see how many numbers
No,
are in
you
there.
don't. It's scary in there.
here's another one. This is one of the
There's a
ones
lot of alcohol.
people are going to be really excited
Holy
about who
shit.
hate Leog. We're going to be giving away the complete Robotech here on DVD.
Robotech.
Which, if you guys pay attention to my column that I write for the site, you'll see one of them was taken over by Harris, because God knows I wasn't going to watch this. Wrote a review of the entire 4... I don't even know if it's 4 DVDs. It's a lot of DVDs, I think. Over 10 hours of bonus material along with the complete series. 85 episodes of
Holy
this goddamn
shit.
thing, including the Macross Saga, the Robotech Masters, and the New Generation. Whatever any of that stuff means.
I think it means
it's
Harris
in
O'Malley
here.
masturbatory aid.
It
I don't know.
does
Some
mean
Smilios
that.
definitely just popped wood over this.
Here's 17 discs is how many shit is in this, and it's nicely packaged all together. So we'll be giving away this as well. The complete
17 discs?
17 discs.
We're not fucking around with this swag, man.
We're not.
Dear
This is
Lord.
some goddamn good swag we got for you this week. And on that note, let's take a break, and we will be right back with more, because I need to put some more whiskey in my glass.